Welcome to the Fallen State. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you so much for being with me. Since the terror attacks in Paris, San Bernardino, California, and Brussels, Americans are concerned for the future. How can we keep America safe? I have with me Ani Zonneveld. She's the founder and president of Muslim for Progressive Values. Ani was born in Malaysia and has been a Muslim since birth. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
What prompted you to start this organization?
After 9/11, I decided to relearn Islam for myself, and I found the Quran to be very liberating. And what I decided to do then was to do an Islamic pop CD, because I was a songwriter producer.
Oh, okay.
And I said, let me contribute something positive to post 9/11 America. And because I was a female singer and because I was using all the modern instrumentation, none of the Muslim websites and retail stores would sell it. And at that point, I decided there's no way I'm going to go back to this shackled environment. And so I decided to start my own progressive Muslim community in Los Angeles in 2006. And in 2007, with other like-minded American Muslims, we formed Muslims for Progressive Values.
What's liberating about the Quran?
As you can see, I'm not covering my hair, and a lot of times the tradition or the culture has taken over the actual values of the Quran. So, for example, in many of the Muslim-majority countries, marriage between a child and adult is permissible. But in actuality, the Quran is very clear. Marriage is between two consenting adults. There's a lot of human rights abuses that is being perpetuated in the name of Islam, making women the property of man, for example.
That's not in the Quran?
That is not in the Quran.
Why are so many men and women, adult people, going along with it around the world if it's not there?
Yeah.
Why are they going along with that?
Politics, dictators, use religion to control their subjects. Right? We see that in all traditions, right. Not just an Islamic thing. The concept of Sharia law, for example, is supposedly known as God's law, but that's not what it is at all. It is basically 100% man-made set of laws, and it is created by these politicians throughout the centuries that have, that is sort of an extrapolation of their reading of the Quran from a misogynistic man, medieval man,
yeah.
And then they added all these cultural practices like child marriage and FGM, and all these other elements, and then they call it Sharia law, and they call it God's law.
You were born Muslim.
Yes.
And are your parents, do they see the Quran the same way that you see it?
The majority of Muslims when I was growing up are not radical the way they are now. My parents are like this. When I was 6 years old, I went to the British school in Germany. And every morning we would be gathered together for assembly, and we would pray to Jesus. And I told my mother after several mornings, I've been praying to Jesus, what do I do? And she said, don't worry about it, just replace Jesus with Allah, and you're good to go.
And this was with your father and mother, they both believe the same?
Yes, yes.
And so who is Allah, and how is he different from Jesus?
Allah is actually an Arabic word. And so it's not even a Muslim, it didn't originate from Islam. Right? It originated from the Christian Arabs, and the actual word of Allah means the God.
And how about this guy, Muhammad?
Muhammad.
He's the one that founded this whole religious thing, right?
Well, actually, he's not the founder of Islam. So Muhammad was basically the prophet that revealed the words that is now the Quran. But the Quran clearly states this is not a new religion. This is in black and white in the Quran. This is just a revision, a continuation of Adam, of Abraham, of Jesus, of Moses, and so on, and all the other prophets.
I've learned more about Islam and Muhammad over the years. I don't know a lot about it. But from what I've heard and read, he was a bad guy.
Yeah, you know what?
He had more than one wife. Yeah. He liked little girls.
No, that's not true.
He wanted to destroy the Christians.
The first thing you have to be careful what book you pick up when you read about Islam, because there are millions and millions of dollars being pumped into creating anti-Islam and anti-Muslim books, and they are intentionally there to misinform the public. There is a covenant between Prophet Muhammad and the early Christians that is still now in the monastery, which is in Egypt, because that's where the Eastern Christianity started, right?
Right.
Because the Christians protected the early Muslims from the Meccan tribes because they were out to kill him, the pagans. And he also had a covenant with the Christians after that, that we will always be protective of the Christians. We should never hinder them from their Christian traditions, their church places.
Are you serious? You're the only person I ever heard say this.
But you know what the thing is?
But what about that war between the Christians and the Muslims when, way back when, the Muslims were trying to destroy the Christians and almost did until the Christians decided to start fighting back?
You're talking about the Crusades?
Yes.
Well, okay, but that is a political war, right? So I think what we have to be very careful is there's politics and there's faith, spirituality.
So if what you're saying is true, and because I don't know the whole story, I can't doubt you.
All you have to do is Google.
Why don't we see more Muslims speaking the truth about this, out there in the forefront saying, no, this is...
You know why?
Why?
Because a lot of Muslims are not even taught that. What most Muslims believe that a Muslim man can marry a child.
Right.
You know, that's how, like I said, that's how twisted it has become.
Why do they accept the killing, the bombing? Are they afraid or do they agree?
I think there's a little bit of both.
Do Islam teach that you're in a fallen state and that you need to repent and be born again?
No.
They don't.
Islam teaches that you are born free of sin. And what you make out of your life is the journey.
How do they justify that?
Because we are, that's the theology of Islam. And you're not born prejudiced, you're not born what have you, you're born pure. And that spiritual soul is what makes you a human being, and you're born with that spiritual soul. So
do they believe that human beings are born perfect?
I think the Quran is clear that you're born pure, and then the human imperfections kicks in as you grow old in your environment, you know. And the thing is, Islam is very clear on this. We are the only animal that has been given the capacity to think, right? And language. And our mandate in the Quran is to use our rationale. The Quran is also very clear. There is no compulsion in faith. And there's no earthly punishment for it. And the fact that in the Muslim world, there is so much punishment for whatever you believe or not, is in itself the antithesis of Islam.
So let me ask, if you're born pure, and then as you're growing up, you're traumatized, and life seemed to go bad, how do you get over that?
I think that is the capacity for human beings to use your rationale and to use prayer, to use your spiritual path. There is a passage in the Quran that says, God is closer to you than your jugular vein.
Yeah, I believe that.
There's also a secondary text where Prophet Muhammad was known to have said, to know God is to know yourself. And I think that's a beautiful summary of what it is as us human beings, that we're created for a purpose, and we have to find that purpose.
You make Islam sound so sweet and nice.
But it is.
You're the first person ever done that on this side of heaven.
Well, thank you.
Were you aware of radicalism while growing up?
No.
You were not aware of it?
No. Because you know what? Because it didn't exist. The ramp up of the violence within Islam is the political Islam that has been ramped up with the Saudi money. The fact that in every corner of the world, wherever there are Muslims, the Saudi money has basically has redefined what Islam is. It's a completely Saudi Arabian interpretation of Islam.
Are there other people aware of this?
Yes, of course
other Muslims are aware of this?
Yes, they are.
And do they live here in this?
But
it's the money, huh?
It's the money.
Yeah.
Everyone is paid for.
So here's what I don't understand.
Even at the United Nations, the Organization of Islamic Conference is an international organization of all the Muslim majority countries. They're all bought.
I can believe that's going on for sure.
Yeah.
Here's what I don't understand. You are a Muslim, and yet I'm reading that you're a strong supporter of social justice.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
And define social justice for me.
Sure. The first converts of Islam were the women, the slaves, those who were oppressed. They were not the rich tribes people. It's the same in Christianity.
Right.
Who were the first converts? The problem is we have deviated so far away from what the Quran's values are. So that's when I was saying, after 9/11, I restudied Islam for myself. And it was liberating because it was about social justice and egalitarianism. Everything else is just the facade of religion.
Are you a feminist?
Yes.
You're a feminist.
Absolutely. Prophet Muhammad
Were you
was
a
a
feminist in Malaysia?
Yes, but Prophet Muhammad
What?
was the first feminist.
How did that happen?
In 1400 years ago, women in Islam were allowed to marry who they wanted to, divorce. They had a contract that was entitled to them, what they mandated from the husband. Like, you know what? I don't want you to marry wife number 2, number 3, number 4. Sorry. In Saudi Arabia.
So how did it
in the first few decades.
Oh.
And then the politics took over, and then machismo took over, and all the tribes and politics took over, and we're back to square one.
So are your parents aware that you are a progressive, feminist, social justice type of a person?
My father's passed on, so he hasn't seen this part of me.
Thank God.
But you know
He's
what?
probably turn it over in his grave.
No, but you know what? He pushed me as hard. He pushed me as hard as he pushed my
but
brothers.
not to be a feminist. He wanted you to be independent, a free thinker, but not a feminist.
But a feminist means to be a free thinker. I mean, a feminist is not just for women. Men need to be feminists too.
No.
No?
Way, no.
Yeah, what's your definition of feminist?
A feminist is a female who hate men,
No.
who hate the order of God,
No.
who is jealous of man's relationship with God.
No, you're wrong. That's not my definition
And
of
not
feminist.
only kill the man, but will kill the kids along with the man.
No,
if they got in the way.
That's not what a feminist is.
Have you met the National Organization of Women Who Hate Men?
Yeah, some of them do, but that's not.
Hardcore lesbians.
Okay, but that's not what I am. Okay, my definition of feminist? Because so let me explain something to you. As Muslim feminists, is that we're not here to replace matriarchy with patriarchy.
Oh, good.
Then what's the point?
That's
we
right.
are here because we are in it together.
You know that Barack Obama is a feminist, right? You know that. Look what happened to the country.
I love the country.
You do?
I do.
After 8 years?
Yeah.
We're more divided.
Yeah, but that's because
People bring home less money. The country broke. I mean, it's a real...
I don't think the country
We
is
had
broke.
terror attacks.
Yeah.
Terrorist attacks in America.
Yeah.
One woman's head was cut off at work in Oklahoma. She was beheaded by a Muslim. And it's all because we have a feminist president. A man who hates men, who hates masculinity.
But what does a woman beheaded in Oklahoma has to do with a feminist president?
Because he's a weak president, so toughness doesn't exist in his mind. He hates that kind of stuff. You support LGBT
people.
rights, right?
Yes.
And do you think homosexuality is normal?
I don't believe in discriminating against homosexuals.
So
they are human beings. God created homosexuals.
So do you, well, he created the person, but he didn't create the sin that's made a home inside the person.
That's your understanding, but I don't agree with that position at all. I don't think that two human beings loving each other, I'm not talking about free sex here because, heterosexuals do that too. I'm talking about a respectful relationship between two human beings. I don't think that is a sin.
Do you think homosexuality is normal?
It is normal because if it's a loving relationship, it's normal.
So there's nothing about the two male body parts or two female body parts. There's nothing about it that says, you know what, maybe something is wrong with this, and I'm just not seeing it correctly.
It's love.
If homosexuality is normal, why do they have to go outside of their homosexuality if they want to have a baby? Like for a man and a woman, we don't have to look nowhere else. We go right to each other. But two women together or two men, if they wanted a child, they have to step outside their homosexuality and go to a male or female to make that happen. So if it's normal, why do they have to step outside of homosexuality to do it?
But that's because we assume the dominance of heterosexual as the culture of the day, and that being married or being heterosexual means we have to procreate. The idea of homosexuality being a sin, I think is problematic on so many levels. Did you know that just yesterday, a Muslim father killed his gay son because of the same belief that he is a sinner?
I'm not saying we should go that far with it, but
no,
we shouldn't accept it as a norm because those people are not happy. We shouldn't hate, but we should not accept a wrong or an abnorm as a norm.
But,
you know, we shouldn't do that because if a person is suffering in sin, he or she is a slave to sin, they can't see their way out. And so instead of accepting it as a norm or something that's right or good or just, we say, no, this is not right. Here's how you overcome it. And that's how you show love to the person that's enslaved by sin.
Yeah, I don't agree with that approach because if you look at the brain of a homosexual, their mechanicals are very different than a straight heterosexual.
They are.
They are created that way.
Well, you know why their mechanical is messed up? Is because...
It's not messed up, it's different. I didn't say it was messed up. You said that, I didn't say that.
Because they have turned away from God and they are alcoholics and drug addicts.
But why do you think they're
lonely?
But why
you
do you
notice
think
all the lesbians are
But you know why? Because we have discriminated
that's
against
not why.
them. Yeah.
No, they
you know how traumatized they are by all the by all the homophobic sermons and just not in the mosque as well. You know how traumatizing and painful it is for a human being to go and to be hated?
They are disagreed with. Now you can find people who hate them, but I understand the trauma that you're talking about because anytime you're wrong and you go to a location or a place where someone is teaching that this is wrong, but you don't want to accept it as being wrong, you're not going to like that. But for those homosexuals who know that it's wrong and they would like to get out of it, they are happy when someone is telling them how to overcome.
Yeah, okay. We shouldn't be discriminating. Do you know that in many states in the United States that they can be fired just because they're homosexual? Do you think that is right?
I doubt if that happened nowadays.
Yes, they do. There are so many laws in the books
because if they didn't,
whether it be employment, whether it be housing. I mean, if it was a race, or if it was a black person, that would not be acceptable. Why is it acceptable for homosexuals?
If homosexuals did not impose it upon anyone, most people wouldn't care about it. They wouldn't know that you're a homosexual at work unless you're real feminist kind of thing.
No.
But they wouldn't really, no one really cares about that.
So you know what? If we're talking about social justice, we have to be even about it. We cannot pick and choose who we want to defend human rights.
I think where you may be confused is that I don't think the average person, exceptions to the rule, but I don't think the average person hate the person, that's a homosexual. They are not accepting of the sin that's made a home in them.
But that's not
and
anyone's
homosexuals
business.
want to be accepted of that.
No.
You say it's not our business?
No.
And it wouldn't be our business if they didn't try to impose it on us.
Well, no one's imposing
They want laws and things to make us accept it.
Well,
as a norm.
But they're being discriminated.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
I'm sure you can find it, but the average person don't care.
But that's not right. You have to care about someone's human rights. We live in America. We are not a theocracy.
No, they don't care about them being a homosexual.
Well, if they're being discriminated, then you should.
Let me ask, do you have proof of that they're being discriminated against?
You can look at statistics. It's available online.
But they make up those numbers.
No, come on. I think God is the only one that can decide who is a sinner or not. It's not for us human beings to do that.
But God gave his children the ability to discern right from wrong.
For themselves.
No, for others too, because if you don't, evil will overtake you. So you have to see it so you can fend yourself from it. I hear that you perform same-sex weddings.
Yep.
You have, right?
I have, yeah.
Is that, how does Islam feel about that?
They disagree completely just like you do.
So you going against your religion to do this?
No, I'm not going against my religion. The thing is, everything that we do is substantiated by scholars of Islam.
But a lot of the scholars are intellectual nutcases, and they tend to make up what they want, because they too have gotten away from God, the values of love and being honest and fair with one another. And so they're so intellectual and prideful that they just kind of come up with whatever they feel good to them. Have you noticed that?
No, I think you're completely wrong on that as well.
When you hear blacks say that they don't like it when homosexuality is compared to being black, because homosexuality is not about love, it's not about family, and it's not about civil rights, it's about sex. And so you do understand why
No,
blacks...
it's not about sex. It's not about sex.
How else would you know that they are homosexual if it wasn't the sex thing?
What about heterosexuals? They don't have sex?
Right, but man and woman.
So? It's sex, isn't it?
It says that they are heterosexual because they have sex with man and woman. One of the ways.
Okay.
But what do you understand about blacks feeling that way? How do you understand that?
I can understand how your civil rights being compared to an ideology or to an understanding of Christianity, like as yourself, how being equated to something so sinful and blasphemous is in itself a blasphemy.
Yes.
Totally understand that.
So why not go on that side of the fence and defend those people who disagree with being compared to homosexuals?
I mean, all I'm saying is that homosexuality should not be, their rights should be protected just as all other human beings. Housing, employment.
But they do have those rights.
They don't. I am telling you, you are
they have a right.
denying it. The problem is you're denying it and you're not willing to face the facts. If I do this work and I am very aware of the states that are actually discriminating. Let me say something.
What's wrong?
Let me ask you something.
Okay.
So you think it's okay then to have a theocracy in America?
I'm not aware that we have one.
Well, if you are legislating based on
But they're not doing that.
Yes,
Who's
they are.
doing that?
You go to Texas, you go to Arizona, you go to a lot of the states, they are doing that.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay. Let's say, based on your issue with homosexuality, they're doing that.
Well, I don't have an issue with it. I just don't accept it as a norm.
No, you do have an issue with it.
No, I don't.
No, you're doing it based.
No.
Okay, if
my heart goes out to them.
Okay, if you were going to be a legislator today, how would you legislate laws? You would ban same-sex marriage, probably, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. You would also do not care whether they're being discriminated, housing, employment, what have you.
As a human being, I would care about that.
Good.
But they would have
I'm glad to hear that.
They would have to prove that it's happening. Homosexual radical ones are liars. They don't tell the truth.
But that's not right. You can't say people are liars.
No, I said radical homosexuals. There are some that are not liars, but the radical ones don't tell the truth. What's wrong with discriminating?
What? Are you kidding me?
Do you discriminate?
That's the thing. Like, the way to God consciousness is to not discriminate, and that is the challenge of all human beings.
No, that's not true. God tells us to choose good over evil, choose love over hate. You know, we always choose. Everybody that
But are you choosing love over hate?
Yes. Everybody that walks the earth discriminates. When you go against Christians and agree with the homosexuals, you're discriminating against the Christians.
But not all Christians agree with you.
No, but when you go against those who disagree with you, you're discriminating
then
against
in that
them.
case, I'm discriminating against Muslims too who disagree with me.
Right. So if you can discriminate, why can't we discriminate?
Yeah, but I'm not discriminating based on hate. I'm discriminating based on love.
So how is
love.
it that you're able to discriminate against the Christians in love, but the Christians can't discriminate against you in love?
So you think it's okay to discriminate?
No, answer that for me first.
I am.
How is it that you can do it in love, but I can't?
There's no discrimination against Christians who do not want to support, who do not want to conduct same-sex marriage.
Okay,
you
let me
don't
ask you.
have to.
That's not true.
There is true.
No, let me ask you.
Let me say something. There is a separation between religion and state. Even when the state of California did not pass same-sex marriage, I was conducting same-sex marriage. You know why?
Why?
Because there's a separation between religion and state.
There was a couple in Oregon, I believe, or maybe Washington, who had a bakery. And these radical homosexuals, two lesbians, went there to ask to bake a cake.
Yeah.
I believe a lesbian. And they said, no, we don't do that.
Yes.
Our religion say no to that.
Yes.
And now they are almost put out of business. They've been fined and harassed by the homosexuals. Even the courts are making them do it. Is that discrimination?
It is discrimination on so many different levels. Do you want me to go into legal?
Are they discriminating against the Christians by forcing them to do something they don't want to do based on religion?
We can disagree,
You're right.
Jesse. We can disagree, and we should be. But please, we must not hate each other. No matter how strong that ideology is, we must not hate each other. We're all in it together.
Well, make sure you let them know that.
You have to
'Cause
let,
there's some
and you have
hateful
your radio
folks.
show, you are a pastor, you all that good stuff.
Well,
You
let me
need to
tell
do
you
your
this.
part. I am just a social activist.
Right.
I don't
Well,
have
you're nationwide, you're worldwide now, so you're not
I do-
just a social activist.
I do my part.
So give me a quick yes or no. Were those Christians being discriminated against by the radical homosexuals who tried to make them
No, I'm not going to answer that
vacate?
question because that was not even listed on the question. And we spent 20 minutes on
I
LGBT
know.
rights.
Do you support abortion as well, as a progressive?
I support the women's right, women's reproductive rights, yeah.
So that means you do support
Yes,
abortion?
absolutely.
You gave a talk yesterday at TED,
Yeah,
a TED talk at
Yes.
Occidental College,
yes.
titled Islam and
As
American as Apple Pie.
Yeah.
Can you explain what you meant by that?
Sure, because, cut for a second. And you know what, I appreciate, stop with the snickering.
Who
because
done that?
Because, you know, it's really disrespectful.
Excuse me, I'm breathing,
Okay.
okay? I'm
So-
trying to breathe,
Yes, you are.
right.
But I hear the snickering too.
There was no sniffing.
Okay.
You misheard.
Okay. Justice in the Quran is mentioned 53 times, and justice for all is a core American value. And that was one of my common denominators. The other common denominator is the right to believe or not. And that is also constitutionally protected in America. That is not necessary practice, and the same thing in Islam. That is absolutely not practiced because people are forced into believe into a particular state definition of Islam.
How did it go?
It went very good.
Oh, yeah?
I hope it goes up pretty soon, and I'll
good.
share it
I'll
with
look
you.
for it, yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
sure. What drive members of ISIS to create the destruction,
Yeah.
such as they carried out in Paris and Brussels?
Yeah. Well, there's in Europe, there's this ghettoization of Muslims. The discrimination against Muslims is very intense, or against minorities, not just Muslims, just minorities, right? Because they have this very European, Eurocentric mindset. There are very horrible social issues, social injustice that's been going on for decades. And so that sort of
that's
fuels.
what's created
Well, no,
ISIS?
European ISIS, right? So, no, that's not what created ISIS. ISIS,
I appreciate you coming. Did you have fun?
it was challenging, but it was good.
And so you had fun?
Yes.
You had fun.
And that's, you know what, the knowledge that we exchange with each other, that's what's important to
That's
me.
right. I like having an open, honest dialogue
Yeah.
and not taking it, not take it personal. And I appreciate you guys coming as well. Thank you.
It's a beautiful world.